Come to me, and I'll provide whatever guidance you need. There is only compassion for you here. The electronically disguised voice denied him again. The most recent one I killed was one of yours. Victor's alarm grew. One of his creations killing another by its own decision. Never had this happened before. A programmed injunction against suicide was knit tightly into their psyches, as was a stern commandment that permitted murder by just two reasons, in self-defense, or when instructed by their maker to kill. The victim, Victor said. His name, Allwine. They found his corpse inside the city library this morning. Victor caught his breath as he considered the implications. And that is an excerpt from the book I'll be reviewing today. It is titled Frankenstein Prodigal Son by Dean Koontz. So this book has been on my reading list for some time now. In fact, I've had the paperback on my shelf now for nearly 6 to 7 years, and finally I've gotten around to reading it. I've been a little hesitant with Dean Koontz, partly because my last reading experience with him was not a good one. The first of Koontz's catalog to reach my hands was a novel called TikTok, and it seemed to attempt to mix slapstick comedy with horror, and for me this was like the literary equivalent of smearing ice cream and cake into spaghetti. Left a bad taste in my mouth. Plus, any time I would hear someone talk about his books, they always emphasized how hit or miss he is, and it seemed, at least based on the opinions I experienced, that he was more miss than hit. Well, I must say, with Frankenstein, I lucked out with a hit. The novel introduces us to Deucalion, a mysterious slate of reality artist who has isolated himself in the Tibetan mountains for some time, living the lifestyle of a monk. Deucalion is well acquainted with suffering. I don't fear pain, Deucalion says at one point before his departure from the Tibetan hideaway after receiving bad news from a messenger. Life is an ocean of pain. Meanwhile, Detective Carson O'Connor and her partner Michael Madison are investigating a string of victims in an ongoing serial killer case. Nicknamed the Surgeon, the killer removes different parts of the body with surgical precision, hoping to find the element of humanity he is lacking. When Deucalion and Detective O'Connor's paths cross, they learn of a far greater threat to the city. As Deucalion describes it, Victor Helios, the scientist once known as Frankenstein who created Deucalion 200 years prior in Austria, has created machines of blood and bone, an entire race of killers described by Victor as the new race. Stripped of human passions and emotions, these beings are meant to replace the imperfect old race and assert a new society. However, many of Victor's creations, once released into society, become confused as they realize they lack a completeness that the old race exhibits, which drives some of them to kill and dissect in the search of understanding the happiness and contentment that they lack. It's truly an inspired play on the Frankenstein narrative, updated to a modern audience. Instead of creating this new race by harvesting body parts from corpses, Victor does it through synthetic biology. Yet Deucalion remains a link to the old Frankenstein narrative. 200 years ago, he was formed using the body parts of criminals. Starting out as a brute monster, he develops humanity over time. His creator, Victor Helios, demonstrates a reversing arc. Originally a man, driven by his obsession, he becomes a monster in a sense. I really enjoyed the reverse dichotomy between the creation and creator. Victor views all passions, emotions, and religious beliefs to be imperfections, along with physical flaws. Using direct brain downloading, he programs his creations to be free of human passions, running strictly on the program he designs. Even sex becomes merely a means of venting stress for the potential new race, animalistic and instinctual, free of any feelings of love or infatuation. The struggle between domineering rationality and emotional passions became a common conflict throughout the novel. Victor Helios reveres rationality as the path to enlightened perfection, and sees human passions as a distracting pollutant to human progress. Even Detective Carson O'Connor, driven by a job that requires the proficient use of reason and analysis, struggles to repress her feelings for her partner Michael, believing such feelings will be a distraction, negatively affecting her job performance. A theme is pronounced from this conflict that seems to say that human passions and cold rationality lessen the human condition when one or the other is deprived of the other. One driven and possessed by human emotions alone becomes reckless and harmfully volatile, while one driven by indifferent rationality becomes the merciless, selfish tyrant represented in Victor Helios. Emotions of love and compassion temper the brute instincts and create a more enriching human experience. Meanwhile, rational proficiency motivates the competency necessary for productivity in society. Both are needed for healthy function, but both must be bridled. Overall, I give book 1 of Dean Koontz's Frankenstein a 4.5 out of 5. I marked it down half a point because something seemed off concerning the narrative tone in the novel. Perhaps some of this had to do with the flippant banter between O'Connor and Michael throughout the story, which made it feel more like a cheap Hollywood cop movie at times. At one point, after O'Connor has opened up about her encounter with Deucalion, and they are en route to meet him at the old movie theater, Michael says, "Do his palms grow hairy when the moon is full?" O'Connor replies, "No. He shaves them just like you." It was passages like this one that sometimes had me rolling my eyes with mild annoyance throughout the reading of the book, but perhaps I'm being a bit too serious-minded. Sometimes it is good to scatter a little bit of humor throughout the horror of the book, but some of these quips just didn't quite work for me. But overall, I found book 1 of Dean Koontz's Frankenstein to be both thrilling and thought-provoking, which are some of the chief delights of great fiction, and I highly recommend that you read it. And so this concludes my review of Frankenstein Prodigal Son by Dean Koontz. And this is DeathGroundReviews, the monster that devours horror, suspense, and all those things of the fantastic. And I'll see you later.